Welcome, everyone. You're joining us here today to learn a little bit more about the mental health literacy modules for grade 7s and 8s. I'm Joyce Aragon. I am joining you with other members of the School Mental Health Ontario writing team for these modules. School Mental Health Ontario is a provincial implementation support team, and we help school districts to enhance student mental health through strategies, services, and tools like these modules. Our writing team is comprised of a number of different folks, and the development of these resources were developed by a number of consultations and supports across the province. And many of our team is comprised of clinicians, educators, subject matter experts, and more. Thanks for your time today, and I'll pass things over to Deb to get started.
Thanks so much, Joyce. Let's get to it. These mental health modules from the ministry are what we as educators would call lesson plans. So there are 3 40-minute lessons for each grade, and they're based on existing curriculum expectations. So the learning has been scaffolded and is designed to build as students progress through the lessons. They follow a 3-part lesson format with a minds-on, some action tasks, and a consolidation. And there are resources to transition into and out of this learning in a really supportive way, which Joyce will talk to you about a little bit later in the presentation. So the ministry selected these 2 curriculum expectations about mental health from Strand D of the grade 7 Health and Phys Ed curriculum. You'll see when Susan unpacks the content later in the presentation that the lessons do a really thorough job of defining mental health and mental illness and the relationship between them, as well as examining the links between mental health problems and substance use. In grade 7, we were also able to weave in activities that connect to further curriculum expectations in Health and Phys Ed, as well as to the new language curriculum. The next slide shows the expectations for grade 8, where students can learn important skills to support themselves, because supporting our mental health requires skills and strategies, and we can learn, practice, and improve those skills, just like students can learn skills and strategies in math, language, or other subjects. We also examine stigma and have students reflect on word choices and societal views about mental health and mental illness and their effects. Later, when Susan unpacks the module content, you can see how these ideas are brought to life in a number of ways for students to engage with. In grade 8, there are activities that link to additional expectations in Health and Phys Ed curriculum, as well as the arts curriculum. So as we go through this presentation, you might have a few things on your mind, and one of them might be, how do I access these modules? I want to reassure you right off the start that later on Tony will show you how to access the modules and a few tips and tricks that you might need. In addition, you might be wondering about these 2 things. So if you are a split or combined grade teacher, please treat these lessons the same way you might manage other curriculum in your split grade class. For example, you may choose to teach the lessons directly to one grade while the other grade's doing independent work in the same learning space. Although the content is specific for the grade, there's nothing particularly sensitive that would be inappropriate for students in the other grades to overhear. You could also consider working with a colleague that teaches a similar grade. And as always, I encourage you to review the materials and use your judgment to decide the approach that works best for you. And as you can see on the screen, there are no formal assessment tools with the purpose of assigning a mark included. However, the modules do have some components that would be helpful, like a summary of key learnings and reflection questions. So I'm going to pass it over to Tony now to get us started on thinking about ways we can prepare to teach these lessons.
Thanks so much, Deb. Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Lozon. I'm going to take a few minutes just to review some of the additional supports that are available to help you as you prepare to deliver the modules. So first, there is a separate educator guide that's been developed as a companion document. It includes encouragement to help bolster educator mental health literacy and preparation suggestions, like when to deliver the modules, how they complement other learning, how to prepare supportive spaces for students to participate in the learning, and how to attend to your own wellness as educators. The There's also guidance and pre-prepared language for situations like when a student wishes to speak about a personal situation, which are offered in the form of frequently asked questions and common scenarios. There are cautions and reminders to keep front of mind as well, like awareness of school and board supports and service pathways, and lastly, resources for connecting students with additional supports if needed. Within the educator guide and also woven into each module are specific considerations and activities as educators prepare to teach about mental health from a culturally responsive perspective that considers every student. In order to support educators to do this in the most comprehensive way, we offer preparation guidance with specific School Mental Health Ontario resources, such as the reflection tool for helping to build a mentally healthy class community. This provides reflection questions to prompt educators to think from an anti-oppressive lens while supporting student mental health in the learning environment. And also the self-reflection tool for an educator's culture humility journey, which is a tool that prompts educators to think deeply about their values, beliefs, and bias, while supporting and engaging students and families who may not share similar identities as them. We know that when students feel safe, welcome, and included, they experience a sense of wellness and belonging and are more likely to be ready for learning. So we wanted to provide a lot of great support for educators as they keep the uniqueness of every student front and center while teaching about mental health. I'll turn it back over to Deb.
Thanks, Tony. Let's take a look at some of the special features within the modules. The lessons were thoughtfully designed so that these special features are integrated throughout to enhance your teaching and student learning. I'll highlight each of them here so that as you work your way through the modules, you'll be familiar with them. So first up are Bright Ideas. Bright Ideas came about because this learning sparked connected ideas. And as we were writing, we had sparks that said, should we include this? Or try something that would enhance the learning or the pedagogy. So we used this feature to highlight those light bulb moments that we had. Try It is for teachers because your mental health matters too. So the Try It tips highlight opportunities where we as teachers can co-learn and experience mental health strategies and learning alongside our students. Each section of the lesson does include a time estimate to aid with your planning. And we do recommend offering the 40-minute period in one class, but the lessons are flexible and can be chunked to accommodate your schedule. You might need more time if students really dig into the discussions and if you include some of the optional reflection questions or the extension activities, which a few are shown there on the screen, if you decide to do those to extend the learning. All of those activities are linked to those cross-curricular connections that I mentioned earlier. So as you know, students play such an important role in this learning. So amplifying student voice throughout these lessons is really important in affirming and acknowledging the identities of students in each individual classroom. So the student voice prompts, along with the reflection questions provided, promote opportunities to amplify student ideas, thoughts, reflections, and provide the opportunity for conversation and discussion that is unique and relevant for your class. To help with that, we have some discussion guides and tip sheets, and they pop up in just the right spots in the modules to help you with this. There's tips for unpacking the conversation and some of the key concepts. We've really tried to anticipate what teachers will need to feel comfortable and prepared for these conversations. And finally, the key learnings have been summarized at the end of each lesson. I really love this feature. It's super handy to have a simple snapshot of the concepts covered, and it can be helpful with assessment and with review. These key learnings are also summarized in the student notebook, which Joyce will talk about a little bit later. And as an educator, one of my favorite features are these teacher prompts. They offer helpful language at the moment that you need it and are such a great support. So depending on your comfort level, you can just read that directly to your students or use it to summarize your own ideas, in your own words. So now I'm going to pass it over to Susan, who will walk you through the module content.
So welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Susan Sweet and was part of the team for these modules. So I have the pleasure of showing you some of the specific content for the modules. As you know, there are 3 for grade 7 and 3 for grade 8, and we'll go through a little bit from each of them. So we hope you see lots of curriculum connections, and we also hope you see broader applications within the lives of students. So the first module is 7.1, mental health, mental illness, and the relationship between them. And this first module introduces the concepts, respecting and recognizing a diversity of perspectives, and that the concepts can vary across cultures. And we know that this can be a big idea. Even older students have told us that this can be new learning, that mental health and mental illness are 2 separate yet connected things. So educators don't have to craft ways to explain that. It's all provided. Each module has an anchor video that explains concepts. It has lots of additional materials to allow multiple entry points to the learning, like graphic organizers, reflection questions, all kinds of things are available to help support you in delivering this content. Students have the ability to try on different definitions of mental health and mental illness and see what fits for them. They have the chance to consider an Indigenous conceptualization of mental health. So there's a lot packed into this first module, which is the foundation for all the rest of the modules. And 7.2, understanding signs of a mental health problem and how to seek support. We know that help seeking is really a skill that we'd like to build for our students. So it supports students to monitor and reflect on their own mental health and know how, when, and where to seek support should they need it. There are a whole range of activities included. Again, we talk about how a range of feelings can be healthy, how we can each experience feelings differently. We talk about how would students know when it's more than a bad day. Sometimes students worry, is this big enough for me to seek support? People are busy, will I be bothering them? And really give them some guidance around that as well. So again, there are slide decks, conversation starters, videos, and lots of different ways to introduce these concepts to students. In the third module for grade 7, you'll see the curriculum connection to substance use. So we talk about mental health, substance use, and the relationship between them. We know that substance use is among the most stigmatized of health conditions. So a lot of careful thought went into how to have this conversation, how to help it be non-judgmental and non-stigmatizing. So one feature is a quiz that you can offer students to get a sense of the learning they're bringing with them, what they've heard, what they think they know, what they might want to learn, what they might be wondering, and really create an open conversation around this topic. Again, a video is provided. There are discussion guides. There are all kinds of features, again, that Deb mentioned to help support this learning. And we move into the grade 8 series. And if you are a grade 8 teacher, please feel free to have a look at the grade 7 modules, to introduce any content you might wish. Again, Deb said the key learnings are pulled in a really easy to find way if you'd like to review them with students and see what they remember. And given that they're new, you may wish to just introduce a few concepts. They're completely there for your use as well. And grade 7 does again build, or grade 8 does build on grade 7. So the first module is mental health and stigma. And it talks about stigma related to mental health and mental illness, why it's an issue, and actions that might counteract it. And we talk a lot about our words and the language we use within this module and how it can support us and sometimes not support us, and how the words can have an impact on other people, and also the way we speak to ourselves can impact how we feel. So our words matter to us as people as well. So we just introduced the idea of questioning our language and thinking about, is it kind, is it compassionate, is it balanced, and getting students to really look at that. There are also ways to share what students learn with the rest of the school, so they can use language again to create a school announcement, a poster, a newsletter, and really bring that learning to life. 8.2 talks about how to manage stress. And we know that this is a topic we've been considering all along, but especially over the past few years in the pandemic, it's been something that we really want to support students with, just managing stress. So this module acknowledges and normalizes everyday stresses we all face and helps students anticipate and get ready for them by building healthy strategies into their day-to-day lives and routines. We talk about the idea that some types of stress can actually be positive and support us. And sometimes tolerating a bit of distress is a skill we can practice and get better at. But we also talk about other types of stress not being something we necessarily should be expected to adapt to, like when it stems from racism, exclusion, or marginalization, and when we might need to reach out to others for help and support. Again, a video is provided, and there are lots of great tools and additional features in the module. And the last module in grade 8 really focuses on relationships. We know this is a big area for students at this age, and we have packed as much in as we could with the 40 minutes that we have. So you'll see information about how to notice when friends may be in need of help, the steps they can take to support them. But we also introduce a lot of ideas that may be helpful, like what's the difference between privacy and secrecy? How do you know your role when you're supporting a friend with a mental health concern? What does a healthy relationship look like and feel like within friendships? How do you set boundaries? How do you know when maybe you've outgrown a friendship? So there are lots of broader concepts, again, for students to take away. And although this is the last module, it doesn't have to be the end of the learning. We know you're introducing mental health literacy in many ways every day, and this is just a part of that broader learning. And now I'm going to pass it back to Joyce.
Thanks, Susan. So I'll just jump right into some of the supportive transitions that we have. We know that supportive transitions are essential to each module to open and both close the learning. A supportive transition is one that provides students an opportunity to practice strategies to promote mental health, to encourage support seeking, and also ultimately prepare students to engage in whatever is coming up next in their day. And so with the modules, we also have a supportive transition tip sheet that's provided to educators that offers a selection of activities to choose from. In addition to that, at the end of each module, educators are also encouraged to share resources with students, including a list of helplines and local mental health services. And we know that these lessons do focus on literacy and building wellness, but there are those students in every classroom every day that could benefit from that reminder and those warm, caring connections. And so this list and reminder is also included in the student notebook, which I'll be talking about in the next slide. So in both grade 7 and 8, students will have access to a Student Explore Mental Health Notebook, which is filled with graphic organizers and information that maps directly onto their learning. So it offers students a bit of a takeaway so that they can refer to that beyond the modules. And you can view an example of that just there on the screen. It complements the Minds On activity. You can see that there are spaces to take notes, to doodle, to add reflections. And this notebook can also be printed or it can be shared digitally with students. Another takeaway from the modules are the parent-caregiver communications that are built into each module that you can take and use in your communications to the student's home. They're short messages for parents and caregivers to help them continue the learning at home and follow along with the content that you're delivering. There's also a handout for parents and caregivers titled Exploring Mental Health Together that provides a bit more information about the lessons and conversation starters, but also offers parents and caregivers information on help seeking, along with fillable space where they can map out exactly who their supports are in their community, in their school, and the process for accessing support should they need it. So with that, I'll pass the mic back over to Tony.
So the good news is that these modules are really easy to access, and you'll be accessing them through your board's instance of the learning management system. You may hear it referred to as the LMS or the VLE, or some boards have specialized names for it, the hub. But I will walk you through exactly where you can find that and how you can get access to the courses. So here I am logged into my board's instance of the VLE, and I'm logged in as myself here. And on the home page of the VLE, there will be a widget that says My Courses in Other Orgs. And within that widget, there is a link to eCommunities available for self-registration. So when you click on that, it will immediately log you into eCommunity. And some of you may be familiar with eCommunity. You may have gone there for other learning opportunities or to participate in some sort of conversation with other educators. And so in here, within the eCommunity, you can see that there are the two modules. There's the English version of the module and the French version. And all you have to do is click on it. And because I'm already registered for it, it will give me the option to open the course. But what you will see when you get here will be a button to enroll or register. And once you click that, you'll be enrolled in the course and you'll be able to see it. So let's take a quick look at the course and we can go through some of the features of it. Okay, so here we are in the course, and you can see from the navigation on the left-hand side, you have both the grade 7 and the grade 8 modules. So they're both in the same course shell. So if you're teaching grade 7 and you want to look ahead to the material in grade 8, you can do so. And if you're in grade 8, you can go back and look at the material in grade 7. Within each of these module categories, you can see the 3 lessons for grade 7 are here. And when you click on that, you can see the module. There's a button up here to make a full screen view. For the purpose of this presentation, I won't press it, but if you want a larger view, you can see the full screen view version of the lessons here. And you can see that along the top, there's a nav bar with some different buttons. And these buttons control the view that you will have of the module itself. And they roughly correspond to the different times in which you're preparing to deliver this lesson. So for example, the read view contains all of the information for a lesson. So it will have all of the curriculum expectations, kind of the rationale, the purposes and notes, as well as all the teaching material. You can see that material is linked as you need it. So you don't have to flip back and forth between an appendix and then come back to the lesson. All the information you need is available at your fingertips when you need it. And so that's the read view that has the entire lesson, including extension activities that you can expand and make a determination whether you want to offer that as well. In the teacher notes view, that tends to be a view that you might use as you were delivering the lesson. So you might have this open on your phone, switch it to teacher view, and then you just have the stuff that you would need as you're delivering the lesson. So the teacher prompts, the instructions, and then the key learnings at the end, and these sharing strategies and learning. The present view would be a view if you had your computer hooked up to a video projector and you wanted to present some of the material from the lesson to the students. So this present view pulls out, you can see, pulls out all of the other content except for the student-facing materials. So the videos, the slideshows, the check-ins at the end, all the things that you'd want to share with the student. I'll go to a different example here and we'll go to present view, and you can see here's the slideshow that goes along with part of this lesson and a video, and then the check-in at the end. So additionally, we have a print view. So if you have intermittent internet, or if you're somebody that understands something better, if it's written out, it helps your brain, you can also print out a hard copy of the entire lesson. Also included in the left-hand side navigation, you can see kind of the supporting pieces that are also linked within the lessons, but they're pulled out here for easy access. So for example, the educator guide is here. And then we've also provided printer ready versions of these PDFs. So if you're sending this to a printer or you're printing yourself, you would have you'd have these versions to use. Also included, again, this is all linked in other places within the modules, but you have the parent guardian tip sheet that Exploring Mental Health Together. You have the supportive transitions sheet, and then both student notebooks in 7 and 8, a regular PDF version, and then the print ready version. So if you have any difficulty accessing these modules, it will probably happen in one of two ways. First of all, you might have difficulty logging into your LMS. So if you can't log into your LMS or your VLE or the hub or whatever it's called, you're going to contact your TELT contact, and they can help you get logged into to the LMS. If you log into the LMS, but you can't see that My Courses in Other Orgs widget, or you don't see the e-community, we will provide an email address at the end of this presentation for you to contact in order to get that resolved. So that's how you access the module. That's a quick technical run through of the module. And now I'm going to turn it back to Deb.
That's a great overview. We hope that you feel excited and more confident about using these modules. While we had you with us, we wanted to share a sneak peek of a new resource that we're really excited about that will help you teach about mental health in quick and easy ways throughout the whole year. So this new tool is called Wayfinder. And Wayfinder essentially helps you find your way to the best mental health resources for your grade. So we've pulled together activities and lesson plans for each grade in a thoughtful and sequential way. And everything you need is in one place. So Wayfinder offers one table per grade, and the tables include a column for each month of the school year. And when you get in there to take a look at it, you'll see that there are icons to highlight resources that have press and play videos, as well as resources that include ready-to-use communication materials. And I just love the last two columns have tips and suggestions that will help you support students with reviewing and reflecting on the school year, as well as celebrating and transitioning. So at the time of this video, grades 1 to 6 are available. And we will provide at the end a link of how you can sign up, and we will notify you when grades 7 and 8 and other materials are available. So please check out Wayfinder. I'm going to pass it over to Tony now to wrap it up.
Thanks, Deb. We really just wanted to take a moment to thank you for joining us in this learning today and invite you to continue to connect with School Mental Health Ontario on our website and our social media channels that are listed here. In addition, we'd like you to please take a moment to complete the survey. We would love to hear your feedback.